It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
This next one, so excited, right? It's pseudo-political, but it's really social. Netflix tells employees they can quit if they don't want to work on content they disagree with, according to new company culture guidelines. Now, I love this for a lot of reasons, and this is all long-term fallout of Dave Chappelle's special, where he talks about things that makes people uncomfortable. And I loved it. It was so funny. And I love comedy. People often think, I used to be a part of a young adults church group, and someone's like, you just say things to like hurt people's feelings. I was like, no, I don't think, right? Other people I've learned have this filter where they go, will this hurt somebody's feelings? And I'm a person that believes filters are for children and women, but not for me.
Hey, that is not a thought process of Market Explainer or the big man. Danny just left women and children as a hysterical thought process to himself. That is Danny's viewpoint, not ours. But I do believe in freedom of speech. Obviously, I do believe that comedians. Look, I believe comedians should be able to say anything because that's what comedy is. Comedy should be a mirror of our craziest insanity, the way it brings to light the insanity of some of the stupid things that we think, right? And comedians are people. They should be allowed to believe and say whatever they want and that kind of stuff. They definitely shouldn't. Look, this article kind of has a little bit of everything. It talks about Netflix and their new quote-unquote culture policy, but it's got Elon Musk in it. Elon Musk is like, hey, part of why Netflix is having difficulty as a company is because of their quote-unquote woke content, which is quote unwatchable by Elon Musk, and we all know he's involved in it. But yeah, it really did start back with his, and there was so much so that Netflix, they were organizing a walkout, right? Joe Rogan went through this with Spotify, right? They were very similar kind of thing. But look, I don't get any of it. I don't understand why there needs to be quote unquote cultural guidelines in any company.
Well, so here's what I mean. My generation, the millennials and Gen X the Zoomers, who come after millennials, have this, and I'm going to say something pseudo political here. Have this utopian viewpoint that if someone says something they disagree with, then it's quote unquote hurtful to society. And let me tell you something. Again, I'm going to say something, and the big man is going to have to give a speech about how it doesn't represent the company or him. It is woke white women who have a problem with literally everything.
Again, because Danny, not Market Explainer, not the big man. Go ahead.
I'm just saying it's woke white women because like me and my brown friends, black friends, white friends, men, some of them are left leaning. We find a lot of atrocious things hilarious. We enjoy watching a lot of content that some people find disturbing. And here's what I'll say. When I grew up, my parents didn't want me watching certain kind of films. And it was certainly different because they had to take me to Blockbuster and rent a movie. And my dad would sit there and watch and say, this is a rated R film for these reasons. For whatever reason, rated R for violence, no problem, right?
My dad didn't want me watching The Simpsons, okay? Seriously. Bart Simpson was offensive back in the day, remember?
Yeah, they were, well, I don't remember because that's before my time.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, South Park was the offensive thing, but I just remember, I just think that, I'm still someone who has very traditional values, but I find dirty things funny. And I'm not going to stop laughing at. And I remember when I openly talked about watching some comedy special at a church thing once, and someone's like, "You watch that? Isn't it inappropriate?" And they were able to quote things from it and telling me it was inappropriate. I'm like, hold on. You know the lines from the comedy special, so you saw it too. But and we've reached this place in our society where it's the horseshoe, where it went from, again, white evangelical conservative moms saying, my kid can't listen to swear words, to now it's the opposite end of the horseshoe where it's like, this is offensive. And it's the other group of people.
You don't let your kids listen to swear words should not prevent a company from making content that has swear words. Those are two completely different things.
So there's this phrase in not really my edge of the universe when it comes to politics and social stuff, but it's the conservatives, and it's get woke, go broke. And they're like, look at all these companies. They go woke, their stock goes down, whatever, they lose market share. That's not what's happened here with Netflix. Netflix's profitability is up from last year, and they've had a couple of scandals. There's a couple of movies that came out where even I, someone with pretty fast and loose sensibilities, go, maybe we don't need to see 12-year-olds twerking, right?
Right. Yeah. No, maybe that one was, to me, if they're look again, and I believe in businesses doing whatever businesses want to do as long as it's legal, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm fine with.
And that's that borderline. One was a little, I don't know.
To me, I don't know if that one falls on this side of that line. That's right. All I'm saying.
And let me tell you something. I found the content objectionable. Guess what I did? I didn't watch it.
Exactly. It was this is why Generation X has this problem, whether it's the baby boomers or whether it's, you know what I mean, millennials. And that kind of stuff, Gen Z. This is where Generation X, my generation, has the problem, is we were exposed to everything all the time, right? We're the latchkey generation. So none of this, we don't give a crap. I just don't watch it. I don't care. Look, there should not be a policy that says not everyone will agree with what you're working on at work, right? But we're going to make it because it makes us money. Like, that is common sense to a Generation Xer. Wait a minute. Right. If it makes money, we do it, right? That's it. Right. Period.
So, and let me just say this much. This show that we do here, we couldn't do this if it was two millennials. Because Big Man is more of a centrist moderate. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not, right? I have some wild ideas, and Big Man will sit there and ask me ideas, ask about my thoughts on something, and go, "Okay, you're nuts."
That happens more often than you think, folks. Yes, I am right in the center, dead independent. I think you're all really stupid and nuts.
Yeah, and I also think we're all stupid and nuts, but our solutions are so different. But I'm just saying that we're able to do the show because his sensibility and mine is, okay, he's a centrist. Like, we have different ideas. It's fine. Right. It doesn't hurt my feelings because we have a working dynamic that's different. But if it was a millennial who was a centrist or someone left of center or even a conservative, they would be like, how dare you think this or whatever. It would never work. But here's the reality is, my generation was, and there's one thing I wanted to say. Hey, I love watching Family Guy. I think it's funny. There's a handful of episodes where they personify Jesus Christ as a character, and I presume say things that I would find disrespectful. I haven't seen those episodes because I'm not going to watch them. I read the description, and it says something Jesus Christ, and I'm not going to watch it.
See, Danny is exactly the reason why they have to have this policy, because even in this, Danny is still a millennial. Even in this, because you're I haven't seen those episodes because I know it has something that bothers me. No, this is what makes you a millennial. This is the problem. Generation X, I cannot agree. I can wholeheartedly, and I don't give a crap, but I cannot agree about that episode and still watch it and enjoy it for what it is.
Right. So my thing is, I don't know that. So I'll say, if there's content that I find objectionable in other realms of society, or it's incorrect in some way, that's less of me being a millennial, and that's a personality quirk. Like, there was some movie
that you and a bunch of other millennials share. Yes.
No, it was a movie that was just about Minnesota. It took place in Minneapolis, and it was at the Mayo Clinic or something. And I've been to the Mayo Clinic because when my grandfather, who was now gone, he went there for something, and they had the wrong logo for the Mayo Clinic on the set of the show. That's the wrong look. That bothers me. And in that same episode, they used, "I'm going to a cabin" or "my cabin." if you're from Minnesota, you could have just picked some Dick Harry off the street and said, hey, what do you guys say here? We always say the cabin. There's only one cabin. Okay.
Right.
We're all going to it up north.
Right.
It's that, but there's thousands of cabins, but we're all going to the cabin. There is no a cabin.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
There is only one ditch in Minnesota. Hey, Bubba, can you come over with your truck? My girlfriend got stuck her Jeep in the ditch. We don't say a ditch, it's the ditch. I don't know why. That's just what we say.
Right.
But there's little things like that bother me. But I'm just saying, nonetheless, I didn't tweet whatever his name is, Seth MacFarlane, and say, how dare you make an episode about it, right? The same thing happened.
Somebody did.
I'm sure
and somebody
did.
at Netflix is also complaining about it, which is why they had to change this policy that literally says, I quote in this email, if you find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the best place for you to work.
And listen, I love that. I love them going to their employees, because there's been this pseudo-Marxist workers' rights revolution that's quietly taking place at companies where we're like, companies have to reflect our values. It's like, hey, Bubba, you're 300 pounds, you have a full beard, and you're wearing a skirt to work. I'm not judging your choices, okay? You're free to do what you please.
Opinions of Danny do not necessarily reflect Big Man.
Yeah. We're going to have to record that and just make that a
button
disclaimer.
That I press on every, yeah.
But listen, for the same reasons, you don't want me bringing my personal, religious, deeply Christian views about 1,000 subjects to the office. They don't need you. And here's the difference. You may not be a religious person, but you got some pretty religious thoughts on if I can call somebody the G word if they're not the G word, and I mean bad. It's just like I can't even say it because I'm worried we're going to get demonetized.
Right.
So, and listen, as I said in one of the earlier episodes of the show, or one of the earlier segments of the show, I mean, I have really strong thoughts about using that word to mean bad, and I use it all the time to mean bad. But if it's going to get in the way of making some money, I'm not.
Look, I have a hard time with the problem. Like, there are these quote unquote warriors against cancel culture in today's world. The problem with a lot of them is they're shitty people. So I agree with your topic, but you're a shitty person. So
that's also true.
Why do I have to agree with you? I don't want to agree with you because you're awful. But I appreciate what you're saying. Because I fall on that side. Look, I don't care as long as it's legal. Yeah. I don't care what content it is, whatever. And that's the beauty of Netflix or anything. You choose as a consumer what you consume. That's why we're called consumers. And what a company. Look, Netflix is not the first company and will not be the last company that may or may not either employ or create crappy content. Okay, they're not. It's been around forever. Companies have been around forever that had crappy employees, create crappy products, and the market dictates whether they continue or not.
And here's the reality. Netflix understands as a company, we cannot cater to this extreme. And if you live in San Francisco, if you live in Chicago, New York, DC, you live in a bubble. You don't live in the real world the rest of us are living in, okay?
It's a small percentage.
Yeah, so let me just put it this way. If people saw me and Big Man sitting down, they would presume, and this happened once with our first guest, Matt Cox. There was a ruckus that had happened at the Capitol shortly after we had him on, and he presumed that the guy in the cowboy hat was the one who was like, yeah, and the guy, me, was the one who was like, how dare they do that? And instead, it was the inverse.
It was the opposite. Yeah.
And if you live in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, you live in a bubble where that idea is reinforced. But if you live in Dallas, Tampa, people who look like me, who think like me, don't always look like a redneck white guy in a truck. And so you go, yeah, that's not indicative of society. So they go, hey, listen, when you put that on the screen, it's going to appeal to an extremely minute part of the population. even if someone has left of center politics, they might not want that to be bombarded into their content. They might just want to see, hey, I am not offended if I see a white family on television where it's a mom, a dad, and kids. Because guess what? My best friend is a white guy. He has a white wife, and they have white children. It's not this ridiculous concept.
Well, I want good content. I don't care the
Yes,
shade of color that
it
they
doesn't
are. I
matter to
want
me.
good content. But look, do you think that there may be a part of this where it's like, because companies pay a whole bunch of marketing people, right, to
Yeah.
keep their image up. Netflix, obviously, you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, right? They had their first lower subscribers in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
They just laid off about 150 people. Wouldn't this be, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but wouldn't this be a great marketing move that if you thought maybe I need to lay off some more people, instead of laying off some more people, just
Get
to
him to
say
quit.
something like this really abrupt, hoping that you get another 50 people to quit because they
Right.
just don't agree with whatever this new policy is,
Well,
or they're trying to be the, I want to post on Facebook that I'm quitting my job at Netflix because they're going to
blah blah
have,
blah.
right, they want to be that warrior, right, that social
With a
media
social
warrior.
justice warrior. Well, let me also just add this in. What was I going to say? That's part of what they're doing, but also, hey, Facebook just came out with they had a memo at their office, was like, because there's a Supreme Court
Right,
leak, and they're saying don't talk about um, the subject of Roe v. Wade in the office.
right,
Just don't discuss it and don't put it on the Slack channels or whatever. Hey, I like this notion, and I find this is someone who's anti-political, and part of the, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, but at the core of that, I'm anti-political. I don't like. I just want to run away from it. I don't want to have like the part of the reason I like my relationship with the big man is we don't have to be political. We can just be two normal guys
absolutely.
talking about business. I don't like the idea that politics has ruined watch collecting, right? Because three
Right,
of the magazines I read are printed by liberals.
right,
Like I gotta have trans activism at the car show, bro. I just want to see cool cars, okay?
right.
And listen, cars are a little, they're a little rainbow flag when you get down to it. Like we took the engine out of this thing and put it in that thing, so we're all cutting parts off and welding on new stuff all
All
the
right,
time,
calm
right?
down, calm down. All right. Danny
I'm just
always
saying,
loves to go right up to that line and
yeah.
like just rub the sand on the other side of the line and just like, it's like
But
don't go over that line.
right,
It's like Danny
but what?
loves to do that kind of crap. But go ahead.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I hate that that's happened. And then I listen. I worked the last time I had a real corporate big boy job. I worked on a team with all women, and let me tell you something.
Mm,
I didn't feel free there, and it had nothing to do with being constricted by my hours or whatever. Like having to be in the office somewhere. But it was like I knew that like, hey, they like to sit down and talk about some reality show about cheerleaders in high school or whatever. And I was like, there's no way for me to discuss this without appearing entirely inappropriate or something. I couldn't. So they're like, why don't you watch the show so you can talk about it in our group meeting? And all I could think was, blast me off of this planet. Like, where's the meteor? We've been promised a meteor by Al Gore for decades. Send the meteor. Like,
again, those are the opinions of Danny and
yes,
the
yes, yes,
experience of Danny, not of Marcus
yes.
Player, the big man. Look, all of this boils down to the same thing: is I don't agree that anybody should be able to tell you, me, or a company what they can or can't do as long as it's legal, and whether it's your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, or whatever, are yours, no
Yeah,
one else's. Period.
right.
Like Danny just said, that was a story that Danny himself has experienced. That
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of people over there that have had a completely different experience
Yeah.
in very similar situations.
All the men in that office had that experience.
Again, Danny's opinion, not everybody
Mhm.
else's. So I don't believe, whether it's your religion, whether it's your politics, whatever. And it does, like you said, it does bother me that it is infested almost everything, right? You go to a concert and there's somebody out protesting because that country music
Right.
star doesn't, support whales hunting in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I don't know,
Right.
I don't care. The point is we've gotten so sensitive, and now you talked about it before, you said it earlier, you know what I mean? I don't know whose fault it is. I don't want to blame millennials. I think it's just,
Right.
again, the pendulum that swings in the world, right? We get too sensitive, we get too harsh.
No,
We get too
I
sensitive, we get too harsh.
am. I firmly blame, and I've said this for many years. I firmly blame the university system. If you went to a 4-year university, you probably need cult deprogramming. Like you probably need to go through one of those online master classes of deprogramming from a cult, right?
You're blaming the liberal colleges, huh?
Well, liberal. I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's what I think. So, nonetheless, I think you're going to see more companies go, listen, we need to have a mass appeal and we can't just cut off half the country, right? And we have to deal with governors, and half the country votes in, Republican governors. Just about half the country is a red state. And we have to operate in these states, and we can't boycott because we're going to end up boycotting consumers, right?
Look, it's just common sense. If your customer likes X, Y, and Z, you make X, Y, and Z. Period.
Right.
End of story. That's it. There's no place in business for any of this. To me.
Right.
To me, none. Whether it's religion, politics, this wokeism, cancel culture, I do not. If there is money to be made, again, I'm a true capitalist. If there's money to be made and it's legal, then I'll have at it. Period. And this, to me, in the way, again, I'm a Generation Xer, is a non-conversation. This is not something that should have to be in a handbook. Right. You know what I mean? Because your belief, if you don't like a TV show, you don't watch it. If you don't want to work at a company that makes that TV show, don't work there. Work somewhere else. You know what I mean? None of this should matter in the least.
Right. And in the inverse side, it's like we're nearing so close to where I guarantee you there's going to become someone who comes up with, there's a software as a service you can go subscribe to right now and start your own thing where you just go buy the rights to all the old movies and old TV shows where everything was woke. And, I mean, even a show that I like to watch, which was Community, where Ken Jeong
love that show.
Yeah, Ken Jeong was on Community, and there's an episode where he dresses up like an elf, and because they're playing Dungeons and Dragons,
right,
and he's wearing full blue makeup, right?
Okay,
that episode isn't on Netflix anymore.
No,
they took that one episode off, so because it got protested.
But see, that's my point. Is none of that should matter. None of that should matter
because he wasn't doing it to be racist.
Content if that, for whatever reason, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm not even telling you how to feel about it. If you want to be outraged because somebody has a blue face or whatever, fine, be outraged about it. I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm just telling you that should have zero effect on the business of Community being on Netflix.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah.
Just don't watch it.
Because I loved that episode because it's funny to me. I tried to go watch it and I was like, oh, and then I Google it and I had gotten taken off of.
No, there should
Netflix.
Be zero. And I'm sorry, there should be zero parts of old school cartoons that should be taken out. There should be zero parts of
Blazing Saddles is still hilarious.
It's still hilarious.
Somebody out there, and maybe it's going to be an explainer, because some of these things have hit. They've hit. They're already out of. What is the word? Trademark, not trademark, but whatever it is.
And
whatever. Like this is already public domain. There's a lot of stuff that's going to hit their 50-year or whatever, 25-year public domain, where someone's going to go and put it up on a streaming platform with ads or something. Because again, like there was a war breaking out in Eastern Europe, and it's brought to you by Applebee's. So if they'll sponsor the war in Europe.
Right. Absolutely.
I think we can get them to run ads against Blazing Saddles. So I think that's going to pop up. And Netflix is preempting that by saying, and there's probably both of what we're saying is correct here. They're going, we laid off 150 employees. Let's see if we can get another 50 to just walk out, because that's probably what they're going to see.
And give them nothing because they're walking out.
They're, no unemployment, no severance. Just get them to walk out with their thumb up their tuchus. And at the same time, they're going to go in this new direction where, and hey, this isn't the first time this has happened. Several companies have had a base camp. I think was a story that we covered before, where they go.
I think this is just the pendulum swinging the other way. We've spent a couple of years in the quote unquote woke cancel culture, where a very finite amount of people can make decisions for big companies
Yeah.
because they're loud, right? And I think this is just a pendulum swinging the other way, so that eventually companies go, look, this is too far. Okay,
Yeah. And
we can't let 1% of people complain
right.
and do anything about it.
And there's statistics out there that say something like Zoomers, as compared to millennials, have a tendency to be more conservative. Now, we're talking about 1 or 2% in one direction, but that one
Right.
or two, if you take each group and cut them in half and say it's roughly half, well, that 1 or 2% now puts them in the majority. And it's simply because, people who were more conservative tended to have more kids. And so just the population swayed that way. And the pendulum just tends to swing. And because young people want to be rebellious, and, being rebellious
But then you
now
get into your
means
20s and then you get into your third. See, this is
right.
what I wish everybody could just listen, regardless of the generation. You will learn new things every day. You
Yeah,
will have new
you should.
experiences,
You
and
should.
you will grow. You will come into contact with things that are good, bad, and or otherwise. Things will happen to you, good, bad, and otherwise. It's why we call it wisdom, not intelligence. Those are two completely different things. And as you grow into your 20s and then into your 30s and then into your 40s, you should become wiser, and your thought processes on certain things will change and develop.
Yes. And
It's part of what frustrates me about people bringing up 10-year-old tweets and using them against somebody. That person has grown 10 years since then. Maybe they have a completely different thought perspective, right? Businesses are the same way. A brand new company is going to run differently than once it's been around for 10 years. Right? Netflix used to mail DVDs to people for a living. That's
they
what the
still do.
company did.
They
Okay?
still do.
Right? And now they're Netflix, right? Nobody would have
Yeah.
said that back in the day when they were mailing out DVDs from God knows
Right.
where, right, to your house, and you had a
Yeah.
whole list of DVDs you were never going to watch, right? Because you always wanted, everybody wanted the new movie that just came out. But the point is, again, companies like people just keep learning, keep growing, that kind of thing. To me, the problem with
And
woke and
listen,
cancel cultures is it forces you not to learn. It forces you
right.
not to confront things that you don't agree with.
And if you reject change, you've rejected life. Like, life is change all the time. And if you've
And
rejected
knowledge
that,
and
you're
wisdom.
yeah.
Period. Anyway. All right,
So
who's our sponsor for this
well, we don't
section?
have we don't have a sponsor for this segment, but we do have a tip of the week. And we're talking about all this stuff. I just want to remind everybody that facts don't care about your feelings, but the people who control your life care, only care about feelings and don't care about facts.
That is very true, Danny.
Yeah.
Very true, which, it's not always something I can say about your tips of the week. All right, folks. We'll see you next time around.